Welcome, guys. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Yeah, it has been a while. It has been exactly 1 month. Happy New Year. Happy New Year, everyone. I know it's a bit late, but Happy New Year. You know, we're in 2026. I can't believe it. It has been that long. It's like the 14th of, January. So, it has been a while. It has been a good while. I feel like I need to turn my air conditioner on. I always need to turn everything on. It is really hot. It has been boiling hot. Well, then some of you live in America, so it's probably freezing over there. It's boiling hot where I live in Australia. So, yeah. And today we are going to be reacting to Mr. Nightmare. This one is called Three Unnerving and Disturbing 911 Calls with Audio. So, yeah, I'm excited for that. It is really hot outside, and I had just cut myself a little by my fan, but it's like a million degrees in my room. So, yeah, I can't wait for this. 2026, a new year. Hopefully a better year than last year. Yeah, last year wasn't too bad, but, hopefully this year's better, you know. Yeah. Anyway, please subscribe, turn notification, and click the bell beside you. Anyway, let's jump right into it, shall we? Yeah. I was thinking about doing a gaming channel. Because I've got a gaming console. I'm not good at setting up stuff. I've never been good at it. I need to find an actual YouTuber to help me do all that. Because I'm too mildly intellectual to understand those things. And I'm not rich. I'm sure like half the YouTubers on this platform are rich before they were even successful, so not me. So yeah. Hopefully gonna be doing a gaming channel. You know? But yeah, I can't wait for this. Yeah, let's uh let's jump into it, shall we?
Modern world of technology, communication has never been easier, no matter the timing or
Oh,
circumstance.
they don't have subtitles. Good thing I put subtitles on there. I forgot they had their own subtitles. But in this video, they don't even have subtitles. So
However, in some cases, it may be the only determining factor between life and death. Throughout the world, the people who experience the most stress when it comes to phone calls are emergency dispatchers. Fortunately, some 911 calls end with help arriving just in the nick of time. Others end in nothing but a gut-wrenching silence, along with questions that never fade away with time. These are real emergency calls that took a turn for the worse, calls that still leave a chilling impact on the operators and the world. No,
I was gonna say, this video will be unnerving and probably very disturbing. Um, I feel for the paramedics. They probably get like what Mr. Nightmare said, probably the most disturbing phone calls that you could possibly imagine. Like, Alexa, stop. Um, yeah, that's bone chilling. That's very it's kind of like scary, heartbreaking. It's just a mix of a lot of emotions and probably heavy stress. That most of them probably have stress disorders. They probably just cover it up when they're talking to you know, to the person on the other end of the line. Yeah, couldn't imagine what they go through.
enactment, no legends.
This video is
Just
going to be
real calls
disturbing.
and the frightening
Actually,
circumstances
very
behind them.
disturbing.
These are real 911 calls that still haunt operators. Kyle Plush was a 16-year-old sophomore student at the Seven Hills School, Cincinnati, Ohio. He was akin to every young teen who has dreams and aspirations. However, his tragic turn of events, his dreams and very own life was crushed in an unforeseen accident. Unlike any other typical automotive incidents.
Wait, I think I've seen this one. I think I've seen this one. This one sounds familiar. I remember watching a little boy, I don't, like a 16, 14-year-old, I don't know, and apparently he tried to call and then they found him and he was already dead. I think I've seen this one. I know this one.
Motion. Kyle was on the Seven Hills School tennis team. On April 10th, 2018, around 3 p.m., Kyle was driving a 2004 minivan and had arrived at his school parking lot as he had a tennis match to attend. However, he never even made it to the court. What had transpired turned out to be everyone's worst nightmare, a twisted version of the movie 127 Hours. The difference was that help was so close, yet so far from Kyle Plush. And his demise only took 6 harrowing hours. Upon arriving at his destination, Kyle needed his tennis gear, which was located at the very back of the minivan. Without hesitation, he then proceeded to climb and stretch his body, going past the rows of seats until he reached the very end. Unbeknownst to him, the rear seat suddenly sprung backwards, throwing Kyle to the trunk, hitting him upside down, his chest crushed by approximately 70 pounds of pressure. Finding himself trapped between the trunk and the folded seat, Kyle tried relentlessly to free himself. However, with the amount of weight and pressure pressing against him, he just couldn't get the strength to get himself out of the predicament he was in. Despite being in a state of panic and immense pain, Kyle still had the brilliant mind to contact emergency services. This is because he called 911 not by using his hands, but by using Siri on his phone. What was shocking is that Kyle had not made only one call, but 2 911.
Hold on, I just need to go back because I had to turn my air conditioner. It was very loud.
Was located at the very back of the minivan. Without hesitation, he then proceeded to climb and stretch his body, going past the rows of seats until he reached the very end. Unbeknownst to him, the rear seat suddenly sprung backwards, hurling Kyle to the trunk, hitting him upside down, and his chest crushed by approximately 70 pounds of pressure. Finding himself trapped between the trunk and the folded seat, Kyle tried relentlessly to free himself. However, with the amount of weight and pressure pressing against him, he just couldn't get the strength to get himself out of the predicament.
So did he lose his shoe or something? They probably just said that, and I'm just like not picking it up. I'm not registering in my
took
brain.
6 harrowing hours.
Okay.
Upon arriving at his destination, Kyle needed his tennis gear, which was located at the very back of the
Okay, so he needed a tennis gear. Why does it look like a shoe? Why did Mr. Numbin make it look... Okay. That sucks.
911 not by using his
That's
hands,
sad.
but by using Siri on his phone.
That's
What
scary.
was shocking is that Kyle had not made only one call, but
This
2.
sounds familiar to, I watched another video, like, where the guy... This was even more scary than this, sadly. I remember watching, a cave one, the Nutty Cave, or some guy that... Was it the Nutty... I don't know what it was called, the Nutty Cave. And he got trapped. He was backwards or something.
911 calls. The first one was reported to be at 3:16 p.m., pleading for help. Initially, due to the position that he was in, neither he nor the operator could understand what each other were saying. Eventually, the operator made out what Kyle was trying to say, which was, "I'm at Seven Hills. I'm gonna die here." And officers were sent to the parking lot that Kyle was located in. 2 officers were at the location at 3:26 p.m., who spent about 11 minutes patrolling the area to look for anyone in distress.
Hello, this is Maddie, and the address of the emergency is Rosen Lodge. Hello, contact 911. The Seven Hills what parking lot? Where are you? Hello? don't know. No, I can't hear you. Where are you?
She can't hear him. That sucked. She can't hear him. Like, he's so, like, unintelligent, unintelligible that she can't hear him. Is that the right word to use? Unintelligent. I think I'm becoming unintelligent. Every time, I think AI has really destroyed my brain. Like, really destroyed. I used to be so much intelligent. I can't even talk anymore. I'm having one of those days when my ADHD is like I can't even make a reaction because my brain doesn't know how to say words. I should write all these words down. But you know what? I try not to be fake on this channel. I try not to be fake on this channel. So, I try to be as real as I can be. But like, yeah, sorry, I shouldn't be talking about myself. But unintelligent, unintelligible, unintelligible response. I think that's the right word. I'm gonna look it up. Unintelligible. Yeah, he's unintelligible. Like she can't. That's the right word. I was thinking. I keep saying unintelligence, but that's not the right word to use. Unintelligible. That yeah. She can't. She can't hear him. Like he must be like he has must have like a snap neck or broken in because he can't talk very well. You can barely hear him. It's very like the audio coming from his side isn't as strong. Like that's sad. I don't understand how she can't trace the call unless it's like there's no Wi-Fi or that. I don't think that works that way. I'm pretty sure you can trace the call by tracking someone's app. I'm gonna look that up. Can you trace emergency calls? Probably gonna say, what do you need? Yes, emergency services can trace calls using methods like cell tower location, based on blah blah blah, like advanced mobile location in Australia or landline, wow, landline records. Hmm, that's sad.
Hello? Where are you?
This is disturbing. I remember this one. Sadly, I remember this one.
From this call, you can hear Kyle's desperate need for help, but due to the situation he was in, it is difficult to make out what he was saying. His voice can be heard faintly saying that he was in a school parking lot, followed by thuds, multiple hellos, asking for help, and somewhat of a scream. This was then ended with a cold silence toward the end,
Why was he?
while the officers were
Why was he driving on his own? If he's 16, he shouldn't be driving on his own. Why wasn't anyone else in the car with him? That's what I wanted to think. Because wouldn't he be on his L's? Why is he driving the car?
patrolling the school parking lot. That's when Kyle had made the second 911 call at around 3:35 p.m. This time, he was able to provide more details on the car he was in. He stated that he was in a gold 2004 Honda Odyssey. In the midst of the call, he had the chance to say, "I probably don't have much time left, so tell my mom I love her if I die." These are the words that should never be spoken by an innocent young person. The twist of events, the information Kyle gave regarding the color, make, and model of the car that could have saved his life, that information was somehow never relayed to the officers who were present at the very parking lot that Kyle was at. At 3:37 p.m., officers closed the incident as they did not find anyone in distress and continued on with their duty.
That's so stupid. Why would they do that? They should have, like, they should just keep looking. Why would they do that? I feel bad for that family now. Why would they close the case? It's only just, if it's been like maybe a week or so and you're still looking for him, maybe close the case because there's no point finding him. But it's only been like an hour or so. Like,
I was stranded and suffering in his minivan.
The 911, what is the address to emergency? Anyone there? I can't deal with your friend. Just quick. I probably don't have much time left to tell my mom that I love her if I die. This is not a joke. This is not a joke. I'm trapped inside my gold Honda Odyssey van in the Southwood parking lot of Seven Hills West. Send officers immediately. I'm almost dead.
Kyle's last wish is what every parent should not hear. Even after providing the right information, the officers being so close, yet help is so far. Kyle was eventually found by his own father, Ronald Plush, around 9 p.m. in a parking lot near the school in Madisonville, about 6 hours after his first call to 911. On the eve of the 3-year anniversary of Kyle's passing, the city of Cincinnati agreed to pay $6 million to Kyle's family to settle a wrongful death lawsuit, which was the second largest settlement in the city after years of fighting for justice. Kyle's passing has since been a benchmark in the city and country to ensure that all emergency service center personnel are properly and extensively trained to ensure no unfortunate incidents such as the one Kyle had to endure would ever happen again.
this is. I feel like there was so much, like, wrong going on. There was so much. Like, they could have prevented this. They could have, like, kept going and like they just let the case just be like, oh, we couldn't find him, so that's it. But there were so many like loose ends. Like, why was he like driving if he was 16? Like, why wasn't someone else in the car with him? How could no one hear where he was? Like, I guess because he wasn't at his location where he was, but. And why did the father find him? Why did it take so long for the other people to not find him, but the father could find him? That's sad. And they weren't trained. They weren't even trained. Wow. Can you imagine it if I. It's just. I'm glad they got trained afterwards.
Some cases leave people in a state of shock. Others leave an impression that it was inevitable. The disappearance of Susan Powell in December 2009 falls in the latter category. This may seem like any other missing persons case on the surface. However, it's more comparable to a fuse burning in real time before an explosion happens, literally. In essence, Susan did not just vanish, she was taken out of the equation. Susan was a meticulous individual, and then she documented everything she goes through, such as keeping journals, saving emails, and much more. This being the case, she was actually documenting her fears. Josh Powell, her husband, was does not seem to be outwardly violent. He didn't have the typical characteristics of a serial killer. He was quiet, socially awkward, and emotionally cold, much like an unsettling character that just lingers in the background. These are most often the dangerous type of people. Josh was deemed to be the controlling type and detached with reality, while Susan carried the heavy burdens bearing the emotional, financial, and parental weight. As Josh did his best simply drifting between jobs harboring resentful feelings, Susan's friends began to notice that she seemed odd. For example, less confident or timid. She was always afraid of something. In addition to this mess of a situation, was also Stephen Powell, Josh's father, a man who was unhealthily obsessed with Susan until it crossed every imaginary
Oh, hell no. No. He he liked her too. I'm sorry, but if I had a partner and that partner, father or mother, had an obsessed, unhealthy interest in me, like, no. Like, I would get a restraining order and I would, like, literally, I don't know what I would do. I just, that's, that must be a shitty life. Controlling husband and his father has an obsession with you. So stalking. So like he's factually infatually obsessed. Is that the right word to say? I can't talk literally. I think I've got like a brain tumor sometimes. I should say that. I'm gonna get so demonetized. I'm gonna get so much hate comments. Unsubscribed. Um just yeah. Infatuated. He's very infatuated. No.
follows Susan around with a camcorder filming her. He wrote songs about her. He even spied on her using a small piece of glass while she was changing or whenever she was in the shower. Susan felt hunted, as if she was prey being stalked by a predator at all times. It doesn't help the fact that Josh is completely aware of this, however did absolutely nothing. That silence matters.
That is
One
disgusting.
of Susan's journal.
I'm sorry, if I had a partner and their parent was obsessed with me and my partner knew about it and didn't do anything about it, I'd be cutting all contact from them. I'd be leaving him. I'd be putting a restraint order. Um, that's no, that's terrifying.
She wrote about something so disturbing, it should have raised red flags immediately. She wrote, "If I die, it may not be an accident, even if it looks like one." What's crazier is that Susan had explicitly mentioned Josh's name in her journal. It was evident that this wasn't paranoia. It was intuition sharpened by fear. She had already planned to leave, as there was proof that she researched on divorce proceedings, which meant that she was planning an exit. However, it was unfortunately short-lived and fruitless. On the night of December 6th, 2009, Susan was home with her two sons, Charlie and Braden, who at the time were 5 and 2 years old respectively. This is the turning point where life took a plunge for Susan and her sons. On the same night, Josh had apparently taken the boys out to go camping. What didn't make sense was that he decided to take them in the middle of the night in the freezing cold of winter, while it was also a school night. It was also said that Susan never followed them because she wasn't feeling well. When morning came, Susan had vanished into thin air. Her purse, phone, shoes, coat, all the things people take with them when they intend to leave, were left untouched, like she simply evaporated from the house. Following the disappearance, police arrived at her house for a welfare check, but something about the house felt wrong in a way that can't be described. were no signs of struggle. There was just absence. Eventually, Josh returned with the kids while having a calm demeanor that's almost unsettling. Officers noticed scratches on his hands and neck. When questioned, his answers shifted, details changed, his story bent in every different way every time it was examined. The minivan he drove tested positive for blood. However, that alone was not enough to charge him. This is where the case becomes unbearable. Charlie, the older son, started saying things that don't align with Josh's stories. He told investigators things such as, Mommy followed to the camp, Dad took Mommy somewhere, Mommy didn't come back. It's a known fact that kids are not good at lying. What Charlie said did not sound like imagination, but rather fragments of a memory he didn't understand. Even when presented with Charlie's claims, Josh never reacted with grief, desperation, or panic, just cold, mechanical defensiveness. Without a body, the prosecution team couldn't press charges toward Josh. He instead invoked his right to silence and refused to cooperate entirely. He then packed his kids and brought them to Washington, away from Utah and public scrutiny. Legally, he was still just the husband of a missing woman. As the investigation digs deeper, the disturbing behavior of Josh's father, Stephen Powell, comes into full view. His obsession with Susan was no longer a speculation. It was all documented in video recordings, journals, and even songs. Stephen was then arrested, but for a whole different reason. He was charged with voyeurism and he went to prison believing that Susan was still alive.
I've
still
never
writing
seen
about
Mr.
her.
Nightmare just blank out what he said. Mr. Nightmare just, I've never seen Mr. Nightmare do that. Bam, bam! Like, bleep out. That's like the first time Mr. Nightmare's ever done that.
But for a whole different reason. He was charged with voyeurism and
Sex
he went to
trafficking.
prison believing that Susan was still alive, still writing about her, still clinging on to sick fantasies. Seeing as how his days may be numbered, Josh left a digital will. In the will, he went on a rant about betrayal, control, and money. He also insisted he was being persecuted. However, he made one thing terrifyingly clear. He would not accept it if he lost his children. At this juncture, it wasn't a cry for help. It was a warning. By the year 2012, Josh's mental state had deteriorated. Refused psychological evaluations and isolated himself. The courts had determined that he was only allowed supervised visitation of his sons. It may seem like the best and safest solution, but it was just adding fuel to the flame. Susan's parents had fought tirelessly and desperately for custody for their grandsons because they felt something terrible was about to happen. Unfortunately, that feeling couldn't be more true. On February 5th, 2012, Josh had arrived at his rental house for a supervised visit. While this incident took place, the social worker had waited outside, which proved to be a fatal decision. Josh ushered the boys into the house, and in a flash, closed the door and locked it. Within minutes, neighbors reported hearing screaming coming from inside the house. Josh had ruthlessly attacked his sons with a hatchet. The nightmare didn't end there. He then proceeded to pour gasoline throughout the house and ignited it.
What the... Sorry, I got a text on my phone. I got distracted.
The house. Josh had arrived at his rental house for a supervised visit. While this incident took place, the social worker had waited outside, which proved to be a fatal decision. Josh ushered the boys into the house, and then in a flash, closed the door and locked it. Within minutes, neighbors reported hearing screaming coming from inside the house. Josh had ruthlessly attacked his sons with a hatchet. The nightmare didn't end there. He then proceeded to pour gasoline throughout the house and ignited it. From official reports, the explosion could be heard and felt blocks away. The social worker dialed 911. It was all too late. Fire quickly enveloped the whole house. There was nothing anyone could do about it. Both Charlie and Braden died from a combination of blunt force trauma by the hands of their own father, smoke inhalation. Josh met his demise in the fire. It was deliberate and calculated, something that indicates the way Josh intended it to be, in control, even in death.
But I guess I didn't help right away. He's on a very short leash with DSHS and CPS has been involved. And this is the craziest thing. He looked right at me and closed the door. And I'd like to pull out of the driveway because there's no gasoline and he won't let me in. This could be life-threatening. He went to court on Wednesday and he didn't get his kids back. And this is really, I'm afraid for their lives. He blew up the house in a kid, slammed the door in my face. So I kept knocking. I thought it was a mistake. Kids were one step ahead of me. They're 5 and 7. They were one step ahead of me and he slammed the door in my face.
Only after Josh's death, the prosecutors had decided to say what everyone already knew. Josh Powell murdered Susan Powell. The case was tragically closed without Susan's remains ever being found to this day, or will she ever be found. Susan's parents later sued the state and won. This had a positive impact on how child services handle high-risk domestic violence cases. It was justice. However, it came far too late.
That's just scary. Just absolutely terrifying. That's just like, why? Why are people so? Why I have a controversial opinion. People that do stuff to people, to children, don't deserve children. People need to stop having children if they're not willing to give them all, to give them what they. You're creating something. You're building something into like your own persona from what you were, and you're building them into that with another person who has a similar persona, and they you work alongside them to create something, to build something, and then eventually develop that person into what they will become. And if you can't do that, you're going to neglect your child or mistreat your child, or even worse, kill your child. You don't deserve children. You can't have children. I'm so sick of people just having children. There's people have children that just because they want to live off the Centrelink. Or there's people that have children and don't think of the consequences after. This is just it's just upsetting. It's just really upsetting that people are like that, and it's really heartbreaking. And then the children have to suffer. The children have to go through what they go through. Some of them end up really well in the end, some of them, but they have other mental health issues like me. Like I'm neurodivergent and I suffer on a daily basis as it is. Not that I've suffered excruciating lifestyle because I've actually had a pretty decent lifestyle to be honest. But you know what? It could have been worse for me. And you know what? Other people will feel the same. People in a chronological capacity cannot always cope with life and cannot, or I don't know if I said the right word, chronological. I don't think that's the right word. But, you know what I mean. Like, no one, and this is just a, a, a good example of just mistreatment and just absolutely just like tragedy. Just mistreatment and tragedy. Like there's no consequences. What happened. His wife's dead and now his kids are dead. And no one saw it coming. You know? It's just the world has turned into crap. It's just the world hasn't no one's done anything for this world. And it's just heartbreak. And there's people dying in war. Like, people are dying in war. All those children, those innocent children that have got nothing to do with it, are being killed in the crossfires. All those Russians and all those. All those people, because they want more land, they're religious, they have power, they think that is, the moral way to live is to create war. It's their code of existence to create war because God told them to. It's the world. Sometimes I wish the world could just burn. To be honest, I hope people learn their lesson. I hope that karma gets them. It's just. I hope I'm dead when I. It's just upsetting. It's just yeah. Sorry, I'm very emotional. I'm very emotional, but I have a very controversial and strong view and opinion about how the world should operate and how it should, it's very disorganized and very unethical. And I think people are shit. People, you know, just live an introverted life. Have a cat or dog because, people are shit. This is That was just heartbreaking. I think I've heard that one.
Growing old is a natural process in life. No one or nothing can stop it. All we can afford to do is sit back and enjoy the ride. At 76 years old, Loretta Pickard is not expected to be able to run, climb, or do anything anyone under the age of 60 is able to do. She was trapped in her own body. On the ill-fated night that her house caught on fire, she couldn't manage to escape on her own. So she did the only thing she was able to do at her frail age. She called 911. For nearly 20 dreadful minutes, Loretta stayed on the phone, calm and frightened, as smoke filled her home. Firefighters arrived outside. Loretta Pickard lived alone in Lakeland, Florida. She was recovering from a hip surgery she just had, and relied on her walker as the only means of getting from room to room. Every step was slow and painful. Speed was never an option, even on a good day. On this night, speed was the determining factor between life and death. When smoke first appeared on the evening of November 23rd, 2018, Loretta didn't hesitate. She didn't waste time and never assumed it would pass. She immediately called for help. From the moment the line connected, Loretta explained her situation clearly. She told the dispatcher she was in the house. She told them she was alone and that she was on her walker. She also told them she could not get out by herself. She was not hysterical, nor was she screaming. She was calm and precise. She depended on any ability she had left to stay calm and composed, so that she could deal with the situation she was in. The whole circumstance made the 911 call so much harder to listen to. As minutes passed, the smoke thickened. Dispatcher kept reassuring her again and again that help was coming. Sirens could be heard in the distance, and for a moment, allowed Loretta to feel like there was a chance that she could be able to survive the predicament without as much as a singed hair. At one point, her voice cracked just enough to reveal the fear underneath her trembling breath. "You know I'm in here, right?" she asked. Then even quieter, "They're coming for me, aren't they?" Fire crews arrived while Loretta was still alive. They were just outside her home, ready to barge in and save her. They had hoses, gear, radios, and training drilled into them for moments exactly like this. And yet, no one went in. For roughly 8 agonizing minutes, firefighters were at the scene, while Loretta remained inside the actively burning house. She was still on the phone, conscious, waiting, and hanging on to the reassuring words and sounds of sirens. All the readily available tools and manpower to save her, but no confirmed rescue attempt was made. That 8-minute window is where the story becomes unbearable, because fires don't wait, and smoke doesn't care about procedures. Later investigations would uncover what went wrong, which surprisingly wasn't one simple mistake. It was many stacked together. Somehow critical information didn't move the way it should have. Some firefighters were never clearly informed that a helpless old lady was trapped inside. A system that should have displayed that fact wasn't working properly. Words that could have saved a life got lost between screens. Under normal circumstances, protocol took priority over urgency. This bears the meaning that firefighters abide by a rule called 2 in, 2 out. This was designed to ensure their safety during breaching operations. However, that rule was an exception when someone's life was in danger. Loretta was in immediate danger. The exception was never used. On the other end of the line, Loretta was still being reassured that help was indeed coming. Firefighters were there, and she was in fact not alone. But reassurances don't put out a fire. As the call continued, Loretta's voice weakened. Her words became slower and her breathing became more and more labored. The house was no longer just on fire, it was consuming the air itself. It's a tough listen as Loretta screamed in agony before the dreaded silence came. When firefighters finally entered the house, Loretta Pickard was already dead. What transpired next only made the story darker and more infuriating. Investigators later revealed that a fire captain on scene had recorded a Snapchat video of the burning house while the incident was still active. Of course, while Loretta was still inside. The video rightfully ignited public outrage and became a symbol of how attention had drifted away from the suffering old lady being trapped in flames.
What the hell? As people literally doing Snapchats while there's a fire. I'm outraged. Like, if my neighbor's house was burning and I was like, gave a Snapchat and I started doing it, I'd be pissed off. Social media is destroying us. It's destroying all of us. AI is getting worse. We're all getting dumber. I feel like I'm getting dumber. I and I used to be, like I said, intelligent. And there's people out there actually filming. They're filming like, see what I mean? I'm getting dumber. They're filming like their life story while someone's life is literally dying. They're literally posting it on Snapchat. And there could be someone dying. There's someone dying in there. I know they didn't know about it. They should have known about it. I think what a just the system is just shit. Like that's so unfair. I hope that person actually lost their job. I really hope they did.
A 242-page independent investigation followed the incident, laid everything out: communication failures, hesitation, and recklessness. The fire chief promptly stepped down and resigned shortly after the incident.
Thank
The
fucking
county
God.
approved a settlement for Loretta's family. However, all this could have been avoided in the first place. Nothing anyone can do can bring back the life of a deceased, but because of it, policies changed, training was updated, and protocols were rewritten. 911 call was not the only thing that made this case a haunting one. She believed rescue was only moments away, and she sadly passed believing that.
Is the fire near you?
It's just sad. It's just that was really hard to watch. That was my reaction to Mr. Nightmare, those 911 calls. I usually a bit more excited when I do the outros, like, yeah, that was my reaction. Like, that was just sad. That last one was just, I don't even want to do that exciting outro, because then I'd sound fake. And sound like an asshole. That, the fact that she They didn't even bother to go in the building. I feel like I still would have gone in the building to see if anyone was in there, even if that wasn't protocol or I wasn't asked to go in the building. I feel like I still would have gone in. I'm curious. That's why I have no cats. Literally, like, like they should have gone in the building and saved her. I just don't understand what the world's turned in. And the guy was filming literally her as she was like dying in there. Like even if they didn't know someone was dying, they should have checked instead of filming it. There was a possibility someone was gonna die in there, which there was, but to them there could have been a possibility someone was dying in there. They should have searched it. They should have, thoroughly searched it, but they didn't. They made a mockery of it all. Maybe it maybe wasn't unintentional. It might have been unintentional, but it wasn't. They still acted irrationally, and they didn't take any. Like, I'm glad that he lost his job. I'm glad that he stopped. He should have got. Well, if the family presses charges, good on them. They deserve to press charges because. And that second story, all of them were tragic, really. But that second story with that father killing his own sons, uh, you know how I feel about children. People don't deserve children. They can't. You can't look after a child. Don't have a child. Just because you want to create something to walk in, so they can walk in along your footsteps, do it, but know how to do it. Know how to be empathetic about how you feel when that child grows and develops, and then they also develop what you have learnt over the years. And instead of being like, I want a child because I want them to walk along in their footsteps, but after a few years, then you just like get tired because it was too much for you, or it wasn't like this is not like finding a job. Children aren't like finding a job. I think people get jobs and children mixed up because I swear there's times where people will find a job. Let's say I worked in Woolworths per se, and I was like, I don't really like this job. I can get out of it. You can't get out of having children. That's the problem. Is that people think that they want to do something like a goal, like if I want to go to Canada or France, I could just hop off and go back to Australia again. Children, you can't replace them. You can't substitute it and be like, I'm going to change what I'm doing. It hasn't worked out after 3 years. I thought it did. And then they develop and then they grow up with our parent and then they become neurodivergent or they become, neglected or they turn out to be serial killers or, there's something wrong with them. This is, and the first story with the kid, like they should have looked around. They should have looked longer. Why did the father look for? Why was the kid even in the car? Why wasn't the father? I feel like there was more to the story. Why wasn't the father or the mum driving the car or driving instructor? You said he was 16. Why was he in the car? He should, a 16-year-old shouldn't be driving on their own. It's it's just upsetting. I'm just really upset with how the world is turning into. Like AI is destroying our brains. We're getting more dumber. We're when social media is taking over our life. I mean, it was already. AI is making us dumber. The world's turning to a close. Everyone's suffering. It's like there's no like actual like consequences. There's no like consequences, and I'm just really upset with the world. I'm just really pissed off, and I'm just, it's just really heartbreaking that we've come to that. We've come to that, I'm not saying the world wasn't good before, but I'm just saying I don't know what I'm gonna say. Just yeah, I don't even know how to do my outro because that was just really heartbreaking. Maybe because I'm just really emotional. Just really emotional. I might not do my outro with this video. I only most other nightmare videos because they always end up like you never know if they're a real or fake story. This is real, so that's why I'm very weird about doing my outro. Like, thank you guys. Like, just upset. I'm upset. I am going on a bus and I am going to go and buy some toothpaste because I need to buy some toothpaste. Yeah. Uh, Thank you guys for watching that video. Happy New Year to you all, and I love you guys so much. Thanks for watching. Bye!